Okay, just think about this for a second. Imagine a country where the most powerful person isn't some lifelong career politician, but a rapper who used to write songs calling out the government. Well, that's not imaginary, it just happened in Nepal. And let me tell you, it's an incredible story about music, protest, and a complete system overhaul. You see, for years, Balen Shah's voice wasn't heard in parliament. Nope, it was blasting through speakers and headphones all across Nepal. He was this huge rapper, but his lyrics, they weren't about parties or cars. They were about the deep-seated corruption he saw just crippling his country. And then, everything changed. In a move that honestly nobody saw coming, the artist became the authority. In his very first week as Prime Minister, he started taking action that sent this massive shockwave across the nation. It was a clear message. Those protest songs, they weren't just lyrics. They were a to-do list. So what exactly went down here? Well, back in March of 2026, Nepal didn't just get a new leader. It basically ignited a political earthquake, one that put a rapper in the nation's highest office. So who is this guy really? Balen Shah is the absolute definition of a political outsider. He's not from some political dynasty, and he didn't spend years climbing the party ladder. He's a 35-year-old structural engineer who, frankly, was way more famous for his rap career than any political ambition. I mean, his age alone is a radical change from the older career politicians who've been running Nepal for decades. And he made his intentions crystal clear from day one. He didn't just talk about change, he acted on it. One of his very first moves was to order the arrest of a former prime minister, KP Sharma Oli, on corruption charges. Think about that. It was a dramatic break from the past, where it felt like powerful people were untouchable. He was sending a message: nobody is above the law. And this table right here, it just lays it all out. It shows you the scale of this change. On one side, you've got the traditional path to power in Nepal, career politicians, usually over 60, who came up through the old party system. And on the other side, you have Balen Shah, young, from a totally different world of music and engineering, and swept into power by a grassroots, youth-led movement. It's not just a new leader, it's a whole new playbook. So you might be wondering, how did this happen so incredibly fast? Well, it wasn't an overnight thing. The seeds for this revolution were actually planted just a few months earlier, right on the streets of Nepal. It all kicked off in September 2025. These massive youth-led protests, which people started calling the Gen Z protests, just erupted across the country. And this wasn't just a one-day thing. This was a movement fueled by years of anger over corruption and a total lack of jobs. They brought the capital to a standstill, and even though the government cracked down hard, the protesters didn't back down. They ultimately forced the old guard out. And check out this timeline. It shows you just how lightning fast this whole thing was. The energy from the streets in September 2025 poured directly into a political movement. By March 2026, Shah's brand new party, the RSP, wins this huge election victory. And then just a few weeks later, boom, he's sworn in as prime minister. It was just this whirlwind transition from protest to power. This brings us to Shah's personal story, his journey to the highest office, which is, well, it's unlike anything else in Nepal's political history. It's a really fascinating story about how he built public trust completely outside the normal channels. I mean, his career path was anything but traditional. He starts out as a structural engineer. Then he builds his national profile as a rapper with a social conscience. He uses that fame to run for mayor of Kathmandu as an independent and wins. And that success as mayor, that became the launchpad for his national movement. Right, so his time as mayor was really his political proving ground. This is where he showed he wasn't just about talk, he was about action. He actually got the nickname the Demolitions Man because he was willing to tear down illegally built buildings and he didn't care who owned them. This really resonated with a public that was just so tired of empty promises and politicians who never did anything. Okay, so he gets the top job with this huge mandate for change. Now what? What's he actually doing? Well, he didn't waste a single second. He kicked off his term with this incredibly bold and ambitious plan to basically reshape the entire country. Shah's government just hit the ground running with a 100-point plan, and it targets some of the country's most deep-rooted issues. We're talking about prosecuting corrupt officials, banning the often violent student wings of political parties, and ending the whole VIP culture that gave special treatment to powerful people. And that number, 100, that's really the key takeaway here. This is not a government that's just kind of
easing into power. It's a shock-and-awe approach to policy. It's designed to signal a complete radical break from the slow, bureaucratic, and often corrupt way of doing things in the past. The message is loud and clear. The old way is over.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question on everyone's mind, both inside and outside of Nepal. Is this a genuine, lasting revolution? Or is this just another turn in the chaotic cycle of Nepalese politics? You know, what's happening in Nepal isn't happening in a vacuum. It's actually a really powerful example of a global trend. We're seeing voters, especially young voters, getting fed up with the status quo. And they're turning to these charismatic outsiders to come in and shake things up. They want authenticity and they want action, not just politics as usual. So a new generation has definitely taken power. They have massive hope on their side and a clear mandate for change. But here's the critical question. In a country famous for political instability, can this new government actually survive long enough to deliver on all these ambitious promises? Or will the old system, the old patterns of coalition collapses and gridlock just swallow this revolution whole? The answer to that is what will truly define whether this is the dawn of a new era for Nepal.